Do you know why your adult children don't call you often? It's not because they're busy. It's because they dread the conversation. That's the brutal truth no parent wants to hear. You think you're just showing love, asking questions, giving advice, checking in, but what your children hear is pressure, judgment, or guilt. The more you talk, the more they pull away. The more you worry, the more they avoid. We don't lose connection with our grown kids overnight. It fades slowly through well-intentioned words that wound, through repeated conversations that never change. One day, you realize the silence between you has become heavier than any argument ever was. Love isn't the problem. The problem is that your love still speaks the language of authority, not understanding. So how do you talk to your adult children without losing them? Let's be honest, most parents don't realize how fragile their conversations with their adult children have become. You ask a simple question, and suddenly the air turns heavy. You text something caring and receive nothing but a polite emoji in return. The phone rings less, the visits shorten, and yet, deep down, both sides still love each other. They just don't know how to communicate anymore. Across the world, this quiet disconnection has become almost universal. Surveys in the US, the UK, and Asia all point to the same pattern. More than half of people over 60 feel emotionally distant from their grown children, even when they talk regularly. They see their children succeed, marry, move out, and with each milestone, the relationship becomes less about closeness, more about updates. Conversations that once flowed naturally now feel like walking on eggshells. Parents blame modern life, too much work, too many screens, too little time. But the truth is more uncomfortable. Many adult children stay away not because they don't care, but because they feel emotionally unsafe around their parents. They fear being judged, corrected, or made to feel guilty for the lives they've chosen, so they keep conversations short. They stay polite. They keep their distance. This isn't rejection, it's self-protection. And for parents, that realization cuts deep, because love, expressed in the wrong language, can still hurt. The same words meant to connect end up building walls. The truth is painful, but necessary. If your children no longer confide in you, it's not always because they've changed. Sometimes it's because they've learned that talking to you doesn't feel good anymore. That's the moment every parent must face, not with blame, but with courage to ask, have I been listening or just speaking? The hardest part about aging is not the wrinkles, not the slower steps, not even the health problem. It's realizing that your children no longer need you in the same way, and that your words, once welcomed, now carry unintended weight. Many parents tell me, "Doctor, I don't understand. I only want to talk. Why does it always turn into tension?" What they don't see is that conversation between generations is no longer just about words. It's about power, roles, and the invisible emotional distance that grows when one side refuses to change. When your children were small, talking meant teaching. You gave instructions, corrected mistakes, told them what was right and wrong. They listened because they depended on you for food, shelter, safety, and direction. But when they grow up, that same tone, once reassuring, becomes oppressive. The moment your child becomes an adult, the relationship needs to evolve from hierarchy to equality. Unfortunately, most parents never make that transition. They continue speaking as if time has frozen, as if authority still equals love. And that's when things start to break. When you say, "I'm just worried about you," your adult child may hear, "You're not capable." When you ask, "Why don't you call more often?" they may hear, "You're failing as a son or daughter." When you offer advice, even good advice, they may feel that you don't trust their judgment. None of this comes from bad intentions. It comes from fear, the fear of becoming irrelevant, the fear of losing connection, the fear of being left behind in your own family. But fear disguised as concern can suffocate love. Let's be brutally honest. Most conversations between parents and their adult children aren't real conversations. They're disguised power struggles. One side wants to be respected. The other wants to be heard. Parents say, "I only want the best for you." Children reply, "I just want you to accept me as I am." And both sides end up frustrated because neither truly listens. You're speaking different emotional languages. Parents speak in the dialect of care and control. Children respond in the dialect of independence and boundary. This is what I call the emotional generation gap. It's not about technology or lifestyle. It's about how each generation defines love. For your generation, love meant sacrifice, giving up your dreams so your children could have theirs. For your children's generation, love means respect, letting each person live their truth without guilt. You showed love by worrying. They show love by trusting. You call to check in. They text when they're ready. You feel closer when you talk more. They feel closer when they feel free. Both are forms of love, but if you don't learn each other's language, love turns into frustration. Here's the painful irony. The more you try to stay close, the more they pull away. Why? Because they sense that your version of closeness comes with conditions, expectations about how often they should call, how they should live, or what they should prioritize. Every "when will you visit" sounds like you don't care enough. Every "are you eating properly" sounds like you can't take care of yourself. You might not mean it that way, but they hear it that way. They're not ungrateful. They're exhausted emotionally from defending their adulthood to the very people who gave them life. Let's talk about something uncomfortable: emotional manipulation. Most parents don't even realize they're doing it. When you say, "You never visit anymore, I must not matter to you," what you're really saying is, "I miss you, and I'm scared I'm being forgotten." But instead of expressing the fear, you weaponize guilt. And guilt destroys genuine connection. Your children stop visiting not because they don't love you, but because every visit turns into a test of loyalty. They leave feeling heavy, not healed. Then there's another trap: the lecture disguised as conversation. Parents start with a simple question: "How's work?" "How's work?" The child answers honestly: "It's been stressful." Within seconds, the parent turns it into a sermon. "That's why I told you to choose a stable job. You never listen." Conversation over. What began as vulnerability ended as correction. Eventually, the child learns, "If I open up, I'll just be told what I did wrong." So they stop opening up altogether. The tragedy is, most of these patterns come from love, but love that hasn't evolved. You still see your child through the lens of dependency. You feel responsible for their happiness. You can't stop giving advice because it feels like your purpose. But when you keep parenting an adult, you don't realize you're stealing from them the dignity of self-direction, and from yourself, the peace of acceptance. From a psychological standpoint, this inability to let go of control is common among aging parents. In geriatric therapy, we call it role loss anxiety. When parents retire or their social circle shrinks, their sense of worth often narrows to the only role left being a parent. But when your adult child no longer needs you the same way, it feels like identity death. So you unconsciously tighten your grip on the only connection you still understand: advice, worry, reminders. It's not control for the sake of control. It's survival. You want to feel necessary. But real love, at this stage of life, requires learning how to be present without being essential. You can see this dynamic everywhere. A mother texts her son every morning, "Have you eaten?" When he doesn't reply, she panics. He's not ignoring her out of cruelty. He's busy, and her constant check-ins feel infantilizing. But to her, silence feels like abandonment. Both are in pain because neither understands the other's language. Another father calls his daughter to check on her marriage. He means well, but the daughter hears judgment, not care. Eventually, she stops picking up, and the father tells himself, "She's changed." But the truth is, she hasn't changed. She's just protecting her peace. The emotional wounds that come from these patterns can last for years. Children begin to censor themselves. They tell you only half the story, the safe half, because they fear your reaction. Parents misread the distance as rejection and double down with more advice, more calls, more control. The harder you chase closeness, the further they run, until one day, both sides wake up to the same bitter reality. Love still exists, but conversation has died. So how did it come to this? The root cause isn't bad parenting, it's unexamined love. You've spent a lifetime giving, but rarely learning how to stop giving. You were taught that being a good parent means never letting go, but healthy love evolves. When your children are young, love means protection. When they're grown, love means respect. Protection says, "I'll keep you safe." Respect says, "I trust you to keep yourself safe." The shift from protection to respect is what separates closeness from control. And if you don't make that shift, your words, no matter how kind, will keep pushing your children away. Some parents tell me, "But I can't just stop caring." And I tell them, "You don't have to stop caring, you just have to stop managing." Caring is saying, "I'm here for you." Managing is saying, "I know what's best for you." The first builds connection. The second breeds resentment. Think about your own experience. How did you feel when your parents kept telling you how to live, even after you'd grown up? Did it make you feel loved or small? Your children feel the same. The only difference is that now they have the power to walk away. What makes this stage of life so emotionally complex is that the need for connection doesn't fade with age, it intensifies. As your world shrinks, your children become your anchor. But for them, the world is expanding. They're busy building families, careers, identities. Their emotional bandwidth is stretched thin. When they come home, they don't want to report or explain. They just want peace. If your presence adds pressure instead of comfort, they'll start avoiding it not out of cruelty, but out of fatigue. Here's another truth. Not all distance is bad. Sometimes, space is what allows love to breathe again. The healthiest parent-child relationships among adults are the ones built on mutual choice, not obligation. When your children call you because they want to, not because they have to, that's real love. But that kind of love requires emotional safety, the assurance that talking to you won't result in guilt, argument, or correction. If you can create that, you'll be surprised how naturally your children come back. Many parents misunderstand this kind of emotional safety. They think it means avoiding difficult topics. It doesn't. It means choosing empathy over ego. When your child says something you disagree with, don't rush to fix it or prove them wrong. Just say, "That must be hard," or "Tell me more." It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Listening doesn't mean you agree. It means you value the relationship more than your opinion. Let's go even deeper. At the core of many parent-child conflicts lies an unspoken truth. Both sides want the same thing to feel seen. Parents want acknowledgement for everything they've done. Children want recognition for who they've become. The tragedy is, both are too busy defending themselves to give the other what they crave. The parent says, "You don't appreciate me." The child says, "You don't accept me." And so, appreciation and acceptance cancel each other out. You might be thinking, "But I just want to stay connected." That's noble, but connection cannot be forced. It must be invited. You can't demand intimacy. You can only make it safe to return. If your child feels that talking to you will always end in advice or guilt, they'll retreat. But if they feel that talking to you means being understood, they'll come closer. You hold more power than you realize, not through control, but through grace. Sometimes it takes one moment of humility to start healing years of silence. Saying something as simple as, "I realize I've been giving too much advice. I just want to listen now," can change everything. Don't underestimate how powerful that sentence can be. Adult children aren't looking for perfect parents, they're longing for understanding ones. When they feel seen as equals, they relax, they talk, they visit, they call again. If you want a litmus test for your relationship, try this. After every conversation, ask yourself, did my child leave feeling lighter or heavier? That one question can transform your communication, because love should never feel like a burden. The truth is, every parent eventually faces this emotional crossroad. Either evolve your way of loving or lose the connection you've spent a lifetime building. You can't keep parenting the way you did when they were 10 or even 25. You have to become something new. A wise companion instead of a commander. A gentle presence instead of a constant critic. And yes, it's hard. It means swallowing pride, relearning humility, and letting silence exist without panic. It means trusting that your children's mistakes will not destroy them, that their choices, even the ones you disagree with, are part of their own journey. It means accepting that love, to stay alive, must adapt. If you want your adult children to talk to you again, start by speaking the language of respect. Replace "you should" with "have you thought about?" Replace "why don't you ever call?" with "I miss hearing your voice." Replace "I told you so" with "I understand." These are not small changes, they are revolutions in tone. They tell your children, "I see you not as my child, but as a human being I deeply love." And that's what they've been waiting for all along. So here's the uncomfortable, liberating truth. To stay close to your adult children, you must stop trying to be their parent all the time. You have to become their equal, their ally, their quiet place to land. Because the most powerful thing you can say now isn't advice, it's acceptance. Love, in the second half of life, is no longer about control. It's about surrender the courage to let your children live freely and to trust that they'll still choose to come back home. After years of frustration, silence, or awkward small talk, it's easy to believe that things can't change. But they can. Relationships don't die from distance, they die from stubbornness. The moment one side decides to soften, to listen differently, the ice begins to melt. Healing between parents and adult children is possible, but it requires courage not to speak louder, but to speak less. Not to demand understanding, but to give it first. The truth is, reconnecting doesn't begin with a phone call or a visit. It begins inside you with the willingness to drop the old roles that no longer serve either of you. You're not the teacher anymore. You're not the authority. You are the elder, the witness, the one who can love without needing to be right. And that shift, when it happens, can transform every conversation that follows. 1. Learn to listen without fixing. Most parents believe they're good listeners until their children say something they disagree with. Then the old reflex kicks in. Advice, correction, warning. But true listening means holding space, not holding judgment. When your child talks about their life, resist the urge to make it a lesson. Instead, stay curious. Ask, would you like me to listen, or do you want my opinion? That one question shows emotional maturity and respect. Listening doesn't mean you agree with everything. It means you value the relationship more than your pride. Sometimes your silence can heal more than your wisdom ever could. Remember, what your children need at 30 or 40 isn't guidance, it's understanding. 2. Respect their boundaries. Boundaries are not rejection, they're protection for love. When your children set limits, fewer calls, private time, less advice, they're not shutting you out. They're keeping the relationship healthy. Don't take it personally. Respecting boundaries builds trust, and trust builds openness. If you used to call daily, try every few days. If you used to ask about their finances or relationships, wait for them to share. This space isn't distance, it's oxygen. It allows the relationship to breathe again. 3. Express love differently. Love evolves. What once worked, cooking meals, giving advice, worrying aloud, might now feel intrusive. Try new ways to express care. Send a kind text without questions, compliment something specific, or simply say, I'm proud of you. Avoid guilt-based language like, you never visit, or I guess I'm just alone now. Replace it with warmth. I always enjoy our time together. Small gestures matter more than grand speeches. Your children will notice the change in tone. They'll feel safer, not cornered, because love, when expressed without agenda, draws people closer. 4. Rebuild your own life. One of the most powerful ways to improve your relationship with your children is to stop making them the center of your emotional world. Many parents, especially after retirement, pour all their attention into their kids and unknowingly turn that love into pressure. The more fulfilled your own life is, the less you'll cling. Rediscover hobbies, reconnect with old friends, volunteer, learn, travel, create. When you have your own joy, you bring light to every interaction. Your children will sense the difference. You'll become someone they want to talk to, not someone they have to check on. As one of my elderly patients once said, when I stopped waiting for my children to fill my days, I started enjoying hearing from them again. 5. Forgive and mean it. Every family carries old wounds, harsh words, unmet expectations, disappointments. But forgiveness is not a gift to the other person. It's freedom for yourself. Forgive your children for being imperfect, for being distant, for growing up, and forgive yourself for the times you loved clumsily. You did the best you knew how. Sometimes healing begins with a simple message. I miss you. Let's start again. Don't wait for an apology. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start. The greatest power you have as a parent isn't control, it's the ability to love again after being hurt. Every generation must learn to speak a new language of love. Yours was built on duty and sacrifice. Theirs is built on freedom and emotional honesty. Both are valid, both are beautiful, and both can coexist if you choose understanding over pride. You can't undo the past, but you can change what happens next. Start by listening more than talking. Respect the silence. Celebrate their independence instead of fearing it. And most of all, live fully so your children see not an aging parent clinging to the past, but a whole human being they're proud to stay connected to. Because the best way to talk to your adult children is to show them, through your peace, that love doesn't demand, it simply endures. In the end, every parent must face one quiet truth. The relationship you have with your adult children is no longer built on authority. It's built on choice. They choose whether to call, to visit, to share their lives with you. And that choice is shaped not by how much you've done for them, but by how they feel when they're around you. Do they feel safe, respected, accepted? Or do they feel small, guilty, and misunderstood? The distance you fear is not permanent. It's simply the space needed for love to evolve. When you stop pushing, when you stop correcting, when you stop trying to be the center of their lives, something beautiful happens. They begin to return, not out of duty, but out of affection. They talk not because they have to, but because they want to. Remember this. Real love matures the same way people do. It softens, it listens, it trusts. The goal is no longer to raise your children, it's to relate to them. No longer to lead, but to accompany. So today, take one small step. Call not to ask, but to listen. Visit not to correct, but to share. Speak not to teach, but to connect. And if words fail, let your silence speak peace. Sometimes, the most powerful sentence you can say to your grown child is simply, "I'm happy you're living your life, and I'm here whenever you need me." That's what love sounds like when it finally grows up.